So what I think about old Stephen A. Smith, now saying that stat padding by LeBron James doesn't make he's greater than Michael Jordan. The reason why I question this because he still goes on about him being the second greatest player ever, which I think is a joke. And there's too many problems when you call somebody the second greatest player ever when they have less championships than they do wins. They're not really a statistical great in terms of any kind of dominance, but he has played a long time, so you've been hyping him as the second best player ever. So how did that equate to the second best player ever? I'm just trying to understand your logic because I call cap. And I'm going to tell you something. The only reason why Stephen A is going on about the stat pattern about LeBron James is because LeBron screamed at him and embarrassed him in public. And that's all. That's all. If it wasn't for that, he wouldn't be talking. He's still trying to got in his feelings. He never addressed him properly, man to man. And he hasn't got over it. He really don't know how to shake it. You ever have a situation where someone confronted you, either intellectually or they strong armed you and you just was in a state of shock. You were in a coma and you didn't get out of it. And that's been Stephen A because he's been venting and railing. The reality is this. Stop with calling this man the second best player ever. If you really thought he was, you wouldn't even have to bring up about, yeah, he's stat padded. Yeah, he has. He's, when he was getting triple doubles and pulling up numbers and you rewarded it. Now you either buy him where he's at or you don't. Obviously, there's a 6-year difference between him and Jordan because Jordan played 13 and LeBron's been 20 plus. But let's just look at something for a moment besides championships and who won more and all that. And let's just look at the fact that LeBron's had more opportunities but hasn't propelled in them. Let's look that he hasn't really been a team leader and he's hidden behind others. Let's look at the fact that he's a good sponge of other trends, When Jordan had to beat the Pistons and had to go through this and that, he made people follow his lead. LeBron, the same guy who was supposed to be a rival in Steph Curry, he emulated. And let me tell you, once he learned how to shoot threes, that's what added about 5 or 6 years to LeBron's career. Without the three ball, there's not much to him. So I'm just saying. So yeah, you get the stat pad. Everybody stat pads today. Everybody. Curry's going to stat pad his numbers for threes, which are going to be amazing. But he earned his follows in the flow, but he's still stat padding. James Harden going to stat pad to 30,000 points. It's going to be interesting how people look at him. Kevin Durant, they all stat pad. We're in a stat pad era because guys manipulate a ring and they got the luxury to do it. And so when you have these rankings, and when you have someone like Stephen A. Smith saying that Kevin Durant is top 10, he's a 10, you start saying all these things about people, right? You push the numbers agenda. So you can't have your way and say that he's stat padding. He'll never be greater than Jordan, but he'll be second best. That doesn't make any sense to logic. So Stephen A. Smith, while on one hand, he made a point, or trying to make a point, it backfires because if the guy's a stat padder and he hasn't really left a mark, is he even top 10? I already told you before, he's not top 10. Steph Curry is better career than him, Kobe better than him, and then we don't even talk about Shaq, Russell, and Kareem. That's 4 centers right there. Okay, then talking about Tim Duncan, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson. So there you go. For people who always question, like, how do I come up with these guys? I can come up with these guys. Is LeBron really that much better than Oscar Robertson? Ask yourself that question, because longevity, but what has he done? So you need to start with this narrative of accepting Stephen A. saying he's the second best player, because if he's just a stat padder, he ain't competing for championships. He's not really leading the team. And he ran off a guy in AD who was really the guy who took the bait for him. Guys who take the bait and the fall for him. So what's he going to do at this stage? What is he going to do? So I don't want to hear anymore about this being the second best player. If you call him a stat pattern, you obviously don't think that he's worthy of being in the top 5, let alone top 2. Or whoever you got, either they got Jordan or whoever they got, he doesn't come off worthy of it. So I think Stephen A needs to reevaluate what he's talking about. Wash your hands, keep your mind clear, watch out for another shit of it if you like. Stay safe, stay blessed, stay woke, stay free. I'm out one time. Peace.